Merry Meet, Annie here. Thank you for all of you who have given me suggestions for videos to do going forward. I'm going to do them. I'm looking forward to doing them. A little slow about getting going on it. This is the time of year where there's just a lot of commitments out there, away from home and with family and friends. And maybe I'm not quite doing enough downtime to do videos. That's slowing down now, and I look forward to re-engaging. This, believe it or not, is a video that was requested by folks regarding the winter solstice. Okay, I know the winter solstice is over. If you want my original official winter solstice visit video, it's linked below. I thought I'd take it in addition to that for this video. I think this is the part that would be particularly valuable now that it is actually past the actual solstice. But it puts us, with solstice, beginning the season of Earth, which will last in my tradition until the eve before Ostara. So Imbolc's also part of the Earth cycle to me. The solstice is a moment in time. It's when we pause and consider what we're balanced between. But then it begins a season. Every one of the solstice and equinox do that for us. They start a season of contemplation and action, a particular way of being, a particular relationship with our gods. It's not just one evening, one ritual, one celebration, or even one moment of reflection. We live in the season. So I thought to complement my winter solstice video, I would talk about the season of Earth a bit. I wanted to begin by saying that this past year, as I have been progressing even more due to circumstances on practicing alone, I've taken upon myself to rename all of the holidays. A long time ago I renamed the moons, and somewhere back in my videos there's probably something about that. But I also took upon renaming the solstices and the equinoxes, and as far as that, the cross-quarter days. So the whole 8 I have taken upon renaming. Midwinter doesn't work for me for the solstice. We haven't really started the feeling of winter here until really January. So winter solstice is certainly a fine naming of it for me. But here's what I named it. It'll give you an idea what's happening with my naming. Each one of the 8 is getting a name that I relate to. I don't even care if anybody else relates to it. I'm practicing as a solitary. The winter solstice to me is called Winter's Tide. Because while winter is officially arrived, I'm moving on a tide that will actually bring me to where in the earth around me it feels more like winter. So it's a rolling in. It hasn't quite happened yet, an anticipation of winter. So I renamed it for myself, Winter's Tide. So Winter's Tide, as I mentioned, begins the season of Earth for me. It's about the power of stripping things down to the most basic, about bare bones. The bare bones of the trees and the bare bones of my life and my experiences. I live in the woods, and it's more obvious to me about this stripping down of what surrounds me than it probably ever has any place I've lived, because I live with it every day. I lived in constant awareness and will throughout the length of the winter. The shifting of light, the brightness of the light as it comes in the house now, because the trees around us, the oak trees that stand around our house, have lost their leaves. Anywhere we live, though, whether we live where we can have that kind of obvious difference, there's still a shifting in the angle of the sun and the length of shadows. Things are revealed differently. Even if the light isn't as perceptively, noticeably different as it is for someone like me, where I live, more is revealed, or the same thing is revealed in a very different way. That's stripping down to a bareness, a simplicity, a basicness, also just seeing things from a different perspective, especially seeing what you consider to be an old friend in a new way. It's about the power of that light, the warmth of it. We can't always feel warmth and temperature at this time of the year, not unless we bring ourselves close to the ground. Any sunny day, if we take ourselves low to the ground and we hold our hand just above it, we feel the sun on the back of our hands, even on a cloudy day. We feel it. There's a purity about the light that's reaching the ground during the winter's tide, the entire length of the season of Earth. Well, that's the beauty of it, because that's what's waking up what lies beneath. The changes we're going to see later on in the season of Earth. But it's also allowing ourselves to be still and allow any light, literal or figurative, to touch us and warm us. It's about feeling the cold, that stripped down feeling, but it's also about, that's the place at which we have the ability to feel warmth, the greatest, to notice what touches us, what relaxes us, in a way what thaws us out. A few weekends ago, I went to a healing session. It was all done by gong. The gentleman who did it had a gong that was about 4 foot wide and one that was about 3 foot wide. I expected, kind of like a singing bowl or my bell, to hear dong, and to keep hearing it in different patterns and repetitions. Boy, was I in for a surprise. It was the season of Earth, and it was so reflected in the work that he did. Yes, there was a bit of the gonging that I expected, but he had been trained in playing the gongs with a bow. So he was bowing back and forth across them. I can't say that it was a particularly pleasant listening experience, but it was a very powerful feeling experience, and it reminded me so much of winter and the balance, especially at that solstice time, and when we can still feel the energy of the solstice of love and strife, of unity and discord, of harmony and chaos. That's what that gong healing felt like. You can't have one without the other. Oh, you have moments that there's more one than another, but you can't really appreciate the balance of it, or the opposite. You can't appreciate that only out of what feels like strife or chaos or discord comes change, where things are turned upside down and reborn in a new way. That has to happen. We also have to happen that deep quiet, the reverberation of the gong that is just hit softly and let however long it takes to fall to silence. It was a very powerful winter experience for me, and it reminded me again of the power of balance. You know, I tend to go very silent at this time of the year. I tend to go a bit withdrawn. I tend to go a lot withdrawn. I don't necessarily welcome any discord or chaos. I want to be in the quiet place. But I really think that the quiet place, it's a place to rediscover that I need to be awakened. Yeah, it's a lesson every time of this year for me. Who would have known I would have got it from a gong? I have some things I wrote down here from the Season of the Seeker that I've taught about the season of Earth and what it might mean to us. The power of Genesis. Genesis and the earth around us, Genesis within us. Something is in the process of changing. It's the time of the year when we may have no awareness of that within ourselves. We may be providing the fertile ground for that to happen in our meditations and our prayers and our rituals. We may feel something moving, but we don't necessarily have to know or try to name what yet. That's what it is in the world too. There's an awful lot going on that we can't see. It comes to the surface in its own good and right time. The season of Earth is about bones, structure and solidity, and what holds up the world around us. Our bones, our body bones, our strength, whatever within us is what holds us up. It's as much about bedrock, everything that stands firm and tall. It could be the ancient pines surrounding my house. It could be me when I'm standing at my most vivid and proud, straight and tall. Everything rises from a place. Nothing does that on its own. There's a source for strength. It's one of the things we seek to be in relationship to during the season of Earth. One of my powerful words for the season of Earth is abeyance. The feeling of first being aware of, without being to name it, although sometimes it does come with a name, whatever is greater than us. It could be silence to listen to our gods, or feel mystery, just a sense that there's something bigger than this. That dark place we go to in the season of Earth. It's also a feeling of timelessness and infinity. It permits us to be aware of things that don't have to be given a name. It's all about mystery. But this philosophy of abeyance, for me it's in ritual when I kneel before my gods and offer them everything that I am, literally with words that just about say that. Abeyance is making an offering of yourself to that mystery, to that hugeness, that vastness, not as a stranger, but from the sense of, let's say, yearning to be at one with it. Abeyance is the ability to be so totally still that you've heightened your awareness to everything that is. So sometimes it can really knock us off our ass, literally sending us prostrate, that we are so overwhelmed by the beauty of whatever it is we touch. We almost don't know how to deal with it. We prostrate ourselves before it, emotionally, if not physically. And other times it's an opening up, an expansion, an awareness that, oh my gosh, I am one with this. Always. But do I always acknowledge that to myself? Do I give myself the freedom to feel that? That wonderful paradox of, it's all about me, and it is not about me at all. Abeyance in the season of stillness. Such a powerful part of the season of Earth for me. Here's a word I love for the season of Earth. Something I particularly experience in the winter's tide. Gravitas. Gravitas. An ancient Roman, Latin word. It means holding within oneself a sense of solemnity, seriousness. It's an aspect of stillness yet again. No, it was seen as something that those who would lead and come forth in the world had to have this sense of gravitas in order to lead. But we lead our own way, through our darknesses and out of them. And gravitas to me is an important word about that. Even the most lighthearted of us, even the youngest of us, there's some place within us that we can embrace this concept of seriousness, solemnity. It's not a heavy thing. It is a deep thing, and it does carry weight. But it's the place of, I am sure, and I'm confident in taking the next step in my becoming. The next step, when we look at the seasons of the year, is air, and stepping out and into the wider world and who we are. That core, that dead serious core of who we are, is out in the world. Winter's tide in the season of winter is about home, exploring the place that you feel rested, where you find haven, where you feel safe. Home doesn't mean necessarily the physical building. It can mean what community you feel best in, what you feel best doing. Whatever it is that in the presence of it, you feel at ease, trusted, in a way gentled. There's an aspect of the darkest time of the year that's about seeing in the dark. It's about connecting to moon and stars as the ultimate source of light, although we love you very much, dear sun. Exploring the light in the darkness, the spark in the darkness. Oh, the spark within. And honoring the importance of the solstice and the concept of birth and becoming. It's about blessed union, noticing who and what we feel at one with, We're not looking for masses right now. We're not looking for wide community or even circles. We're looking for intimate relationships, the ones that mean the most to us in life. Your cat in your lap, playing with your child, being with your lover. Those one-on-one opportunities to be in blessed union with something at the spiritual level. We can explore that as a face to being in blessed union with whatever's greater. I guess the last thing I have as a note that I often teach this time of year is the power of remembering. Remembrance. Remembrance has to do with those. Remember how we did this in October. Remembering those who have been part of our becoming, have influenced us. But remembrance also has to do with remembering who we are. Having some sense of, well, if I've done the work to explore that, what do I do with it? We aren't meant to keep it to ourselves, this beautiful, shining thing that we are. There's a song that we sing at Dances of Universal Peace. It's called Love, Serve, and Remember. That kind of captures the concept of remembrance in the season of Earth for me. The stillness allows us to reconnect with who and what we love. How who we are can be in service to that. It's not a static thing, it's a relationship, it's a symbiotic thing. Something has to come of it. And remember. That Dances of Universal Peace is remembering why we're here, why we've chosen to be here, why we've chosen to be here again. Love, serve, and remember comes from that quiet place that we explore this time of the year. What about the gods this time of year? Our stories tell us that the goddess is giving birth. So she has that delightful combination of being the crone, who now is giving birth in the dark times to the child of hope. She can also be that child. So she can be all aspects of goddess rolled into one singular event. But how can all of us, male or female, relate to that? Winterstide is the time to give birth to ourselves. Male or female, identifying in any way, every one of us, in every turning of the year, but perhaps reminded most powerfully this time of the year, chooses how to give birth to ourselves. Have a sense of whom we are becoming, and therefore, in the next turning of the year, how we're going to manifest that in the world. And then as we go forward, how are we going to nurture that, and what do we expect from it? That child that's born at the solstice, it's every one of us. As far as specific goddess, during the winter's time, this early stage of the winter's tide, there's not one that I particularly relate to as mother. Well, there's lots of goddesses that have been mother to me, but there's not one I name in relationship to this time of the year. It's a time when I would probably just be in awe of and seek inspiration from the great goddess, the great mother goddess, the potential that she has to constantly create and give birth, and a reminder that I also have that same ability and potential if I step up to the responsibility for it, whether I'm creating by writing, by singing, by doing a video. I choose to do it. I choose to give birth, a choice we can all make. There is a God, though, that I particularly relate to at this time of the year. If he is a patron of yours, perhaps you have a similar relationship with him, but this could be surprising for some. The God that I relate to the most powerfully this time of year is Hades. Yes, the god of the underworld. I relate to him in his earliest aspects. You know, his earliest mythology has been distorted, especially from the classical Greek and Roman times forward, into that son of a gun that rapes and kidnaps Persephone against her will and carries her away for part of the year. And that is not the original mythology. Oh, not as far as my research. All of this research. And find what in a story about a god appeals to us most. But I have found older stories that impress me more. That there's an agreement, an understanding. He falls madly in love with her. Maybe she's not so sure at first, but she does deeply and completely fall in love with him. And in fact, he's one of the few gods that stays basically faithful, even in later mythology, to his partner, his consort. So the Hades that I relate to this time of the year is the god of the underworld, in the sense of the place from which all riches come. A place of basically fecundity, from where everything rises. A place of, you can't see it, but it's going to rise, and it's going to be for you when you need it. And a reminder this time of the year that it's only there if you dare to go inwards to find it. It's there for us. It's there for every single one of us if we dare, like Persephone, to go there. Hades is the source of creativity. He's not what comes from it. He's what rises in the earth, therefore what rises in us, that leads us to give birth, to create, to make an offering to the world. It's the place where that begins within us. And to me, that is what's happening at this time in the season of Earth. We go within and we find that within us. And then we bring it out and into the world, especially into the next turning of the wheel of the year. You could say that Persephone is every single one of us. If Hades is every single one of us, the ability to hold that spark, that generative spark within, Persephone then comes back to the world and she makes something of it. We are also equally Hades and Persephone. We are the source, and then we are the return to the wider world, where that inspiration, that source of creativity, becomes reality in some way. Hades reminds us of the eternal, unseen promise of life. Other times of years we get signals and codes and smells and tastes and all kinds of experience living in the world which remind us about the possibilities of life. Hades exists within us to remind us that even if it's not something seen, that doesn't mean it's any less real. He's all about possibility of what might be. He's not about what it will be, but he's about embracing and knowing at the deepest level the transformation, let's call it personal evolution, will happen when we embrace the concept of who he is. There's the balance of the solstice for me, the Great Mother and Hades. I have really deepened my relationship with the solstice since I have spent more time researching and coming to know in a deeper way archetypally and of the psyche and emotions, and also through that a real connection to the ancient male gods. In the way things used to be for me, the god kind of disappeared somewhere before Samhain, maybe September or so, into whatever world he inhabited. When I visited the concept of the male again, thinking about stories of the descent, come Samhain, then he kind of went quiet until he showed up, danced around on the edge of the woods come February or so. He's very present to me this time of the year. I relate to him as the possibility of what I'm going to create into the next turning of the year. And I have that beautiful balance of the Great Mother Goddess at the same time, reminding me that I'm going to give birth to something that I need to care for and nurture. And now's the time to think about what is important enough to be that. That's how I experience the season of winter, especially in its first turnings, let's say until Imbolc. I'm going to end this with a little bit of a quote, very short poem from Thich Nhat Hanh, because I have it in my book of the year to consider this time of the year. Earth brings us life and nourishes us. That's the great goddess, the great mother goddess to me. Earth takes us back again. Birth and death are present in every moment. That's the concept of Hades for me. Let me read it again. Earth brings us to life and nourishes us. Earth takes us back again. Birth and death are present in every moment. So I wish you tidings of the winter's tide. Feeling what is rising within you, what is most beautifully and perfectly you, with some sense, gravitas, you have a responsibility to that. Now as you explore it and into the next turning, as you begin to make it manifest. That's the season of earth, till the first shoot pops up through the earth, till the leaves start showing and the light starts changing. I'll probably do another video on the season of earth then. Things certainly do shift once it gets to that place. I wish you all mirth and reverence.